Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my channel? Thank you so much. On the day I married Tristan Hawk, the Hawk family's adopted daughter tried to commit suicide by jumping off a building. Tristan abandoned me in my wedding dress and resolutely fled the wedding for her. Facing the guests' mocking glances, I openly announced a marriage proposal. Whoever comes up to hold the wedding with me today, I will marry them. 3 years later, Tristan returned to the Hawk family with his adopted sister. I was sitting on the genuine leather sofa, drinking bird's nest soup and watching a TV drama. Tristan stared at my bulging belly, gritting his teeth, and said, "Whose child is in your stomach?" I took a sip of the bird's nest soup and smiled faintly. Of course, the child in my belly belongs to the Hawk family. Tristan, full of anger, walked over and yanked me up from the sofa. "Bastard, on our wedding day, I left with Betrayal, and I haven't come back at all in these 3 years. How could the child in your belly possibly be mine?" I found it funny. I never said it was his. The Hawk family doesn't have only one man. Of course, the child in my belly isn't yours, and you're not worthy to be the father of my child, Brielle Monroe said with a shocked face. Elena Sterling, even though Tristan ran away from the wedding back then, he still kept your title as Mrs. Hawk, allowing you to enjoy wealth and honor in the Hawk family. How can you be so shameless as to carry someone else's child? I glanced at her. Brielle, you're the adopted daughter of the Hawk family, yet you openly seduce your own brother in incest. When it comes to shamelessness, who can compare to you? Brielle immediately looked at Tristan with a wronged expression. Tristan, for the past 3 years, we have always kept our feelings in check in public, but she got pregnant with another man's child, betraying you. Tristan angrily raised his hand and slapped me hard across the face. "Bitch, get out of the Hawk family." A sharp pain struck my cheek, and I was dazed for a few seconds from the blow. 3 years ago, Tristan eloped with Brielle, leaving me alone at the wedding to endure everyone's ridicule. In my anger, I held an impromptu marriage proposal on the spot, and Tristan's younger uncle, Nathaniel Hawk, came up and married me. Nathaniel is known as the cold-faced devil in Jing City, but ever since I married him, everyone who sees me greets me with the utmost flattering smiles. After I got pregnant, Nathaniel pampered me even more, not letting a single hair on my head get hurt. Today, Tristan actually dared to slap my face. If Nathaniel finds out, he definitely won't let him off. To avoid a family tragedy, it's also a way to pray for the child in my belly. I said coldly, "If you all leave now, I'll pretend none of this ever happened." But who would have thought they would be completely ungrateful? Brielle suddenly grabbed my hair with a backhand. "Tristan, this bitch is just feeling guilty. She wants to drive us out and use the child in her belly to seize everything in the Hawk family." Tristan cursed. "Bitch, I won't let you succeed." I twisted my body to break free from Brielle's grip, coldly saying, "Since the day you ran away from the marriage, your grandfather has disowned you from the Hawk family. Now everything in the Hawk family has nothing to do with you anymore." Brielle chuckled lightly. That was just Grandpa speaking in anger for a moment. Tristan is the only grandson of the Hawk family. How could he really disown Tristan? Tristan also looked proud. Grandpa has long said that everything in the Hawk family belongs to me. I placed my hand on my belly and said coldly, "From now on, that's no longer the case. The one in my belly is also a descendant of the Hawk family." I thought I had made myself clear enough. But Tristan glared at me with a face full of anger. "You wretched woman, you really intend to pass off the child in your belly as a descendant of the Hawk family. Today, I will teach you a lesson." He swung his hand back and slapped me even harder across the face. I clutched my belly and fell to the ground. Seeing their ferocious expressions, fear rose in my heart. Afraid they might really harm the child, I hurriedly said, "The child in my belly is not another man's. The father is." But before I could finish, Tristan bent down, grabbed the bird's nest and the broken porcelain shards from the ground, and forced them into my mouth. "Brielle and I have been braving the elements for 3 years, while you, relying on the child in your belly, have been freeloading at the Hawk family's house. Today, I'll make sure you get your fill." I was immediately choked into silence, sharp shards of porcelain cutting my mouth, blood pouring from my lips. I raised my hand to resist, but Brielle's sharp high heel crushed the back of my hand. My entire hand trembled in pain, yet I couldn't even let out a sound. After Tristan stuffed all the bird's nest on the ground into my mouth, he spat at me before clapping his hands and standing up. Brielle, wearing stiletto heels, moved her foot onto my bulging lower abdomen. I was terrified, clutching her ankle tightly with both hands to stop her from stepping down. Nathaniel has oligospermia. This child is the one we finally obtained after consulting renowned doctors at home and abroad for 3 years. Brielle wore a mocking smile on her face. Elena, you look just like a bitch right now. Extremely ugly. Tristan frowned as he stared at my belly. Brielle crushed the child in her womb. I shook my head frantically, spitting out a large amount of blockage and blood, struggling to say, the child in my womb is Nathaniel's. Tristan was stunned for a moment upon hearing this, then burst into wild laughter. Elena, you really lie without any preparation. Who in the entire capital city doesn't know that my uncle is not interested in women? Otherwise, why would my grandfather have been so eager for me to marry you and bear children for the Hawk family? Brielle also chimed in. Tristan is the sole heir of the Hawk family. Grandfather even cut off his credit card to force Tristan to come back and inherit the family fortune. You despicable woman, are truly laughable. Tristan eloped with Brielle for 3 years and didn't even make a single phone call back. His grandfather was genuinely, utterly disappointed in him, so he cut off his credit card and decided to sever ties with him. But now it was clear that both of them were in an irrational state, so to avoid provoking them, I didn't argue back. I said again, I'm not lying. The child in my belly really is Nathaniel's. If you don't believe me, I can call Nathaniel to verify. I held my belly with one hand and reached out with the other to grab the phone on the table. As long as I could get in touch with Nathaniel, both the baby in my belly and I would be saved. He would definitely rush over as fast as possible to save me. But just as I grabbed the phone, Tristan snatched it from me and slammed it hard onto the ground. Looking at the phone screen shattered into pieces, my heart instantly sank to the bottom of the valley. Tristan grabbed my chin and said, my uncle is moody and unpredictable, a cold-faced demon feared by everyone in Jing City. If he finds out that I can't even handle such a small matter, he'll definitely think I'm useless, and then he won't give me the company. Elena, this is also the reason you called my uncle, right? I hurriedly shook my head. No, that's not it. Before I could finish speaking, Brielle pressed her toes hard against my belly. Tristan, why waste words on such a lewd woman? Let's quickly kill the child in her womb, then go find Grandpa to claim credit. A sharp pain surged through my belly, feeling the child thrashing wildly inside, and an unprecedented panic welled up in my heart. I looked at them pleadingly. Please spare my child. Brielle took out her phone and pointed it at me, saying, kneel on the ground and bark like a dog twice, then say that you are a filthy bitch, and I will let the child in your belly go. At this moment, for the sake of the child in my belly, I no longer cared about anything else. I turned around and knelt on the ground, barking woof woof twice, and tremblingly said, I am a filthy bitch. Brielle leaned down to look at me, a smug smile appearing at the corner of her mouth. Elena, when I knelt before you begging you not to marry Tristan, did you ever imagine this day would come? At first, Brielle came to me, saying that she and her brother were deeply in love, and asked me to take the initiative to break off the engagement. The alliance between the Sterling family and the Hawk family was decided by the elders, and behind it were countless cooperative interests. If I proposed to break off the engagement, the responsibility would fall on my side, and the Sterling family would inevitably be implicated, so I refused her request. I never expected that she would hold a grudge and remember it to this day. Now, I have no heart to argue with her about the past. I looked at them and pleaded, please, quickly help me call an ambulance. Tristan stomped hard on my back. Elena, you really are despicable. You'll do anything for this child. I was pressed face down on the ground, my belly slammed hard against the cold floor, a burning pain spreading across my abdomen. You said you'd let my child go. Brielle said casually, I said I would let your child go, but Tristan never said that. You wretched woman, using the child in your womb, deceiving the Hawk family under my name, hoping I'll let you go? Impossible. Tristan kicked my abdomen with force. A sharp pain surged through my lower belly, and bright red blood flowed between my legs. Feeling the child in my womb gradually going silent, despair filled my heart, and the look I gave them was filled with deep, bitter hatred. Tristan, Brielle, you will regret this. Brielle stood beside Tristan, her eyes filled with malice as she said, Tristan, that bitch still hasn't learned her lesson. It seems the punishment hasn't been enough. Upon hearing this, Tristan sneered coldly. I want to see who will regret it more. Brielle, go get a rope. Brielle immediately understood, found a rope in the living room, and walked over to me. I dragged my bleeding lower body backward everywhere, my eyes full of terror. What do you want to do? But the only response I got was their faces full of excitement. They tied my hands and feet together with ropes, then directly pulled the ropes, dragging me from inside the house to outside, leaving a long trail of blood on the floor. They dragged me to the edge of the pool. Tristan kicked me into the pool, my limbs bound and unable to move. I could only despairingly sink to the bottom. The water in the pool sealed my mouth and nose, and the suffocating pain overwhelmed me, just as I felt I was about to die on the spot. Tristan grabbed the rope and pulled me out of the pool. Elena, do you realize your mistake? I opened my mouth to take in big gulps of fresh air, but felt the sharp pain in my abdomen gradually sinking down. Nathaniel and I had attended a prenatal class before, so I knew this was because the stimulation was causing premature labor. Although I knew the chances of the child in my womb surviving were slim, I still didn't want to give up this last hope. I pleaded with Tristan again. I know I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Please spare me and the child. Hurry and call an ambulance, please. Tristan spat at me. You slut, still thinking about the child in your belly at this point? I see you have no remorse at all. Today, I absolutely cannot let this child be born alive into the Hawk family. After saying that, he stretched out his foot again, trying to kick me into the pool. I closed my eyes in despair, my heart filled with fear of drowning. At that moment, the front door of the Hawk family villa was pushed open. Nathaniel rushed over anxiously, shouting angrily, "Stop!" Tristan was startled by his uncle's shout and instinctively dropped the rope in his hand. He had been afraid of this cold-faced, devilish uncle since childhood. But when he saw his grandfather following behind Nathaniel, Tristan immediately calmed down. He was the only grandson in the entire Hawk family, so his grandfather doted on him very much. He rushed up and hugged his grandfather tightly, deliberately wiping away 2 tears, and said, "Grandpa, I have missed you so much these past 3 years." Brielle also stepped forward. She was the adopted daughter of the Hawk family, so naturally, she wasn't as close to Tristan and Grandpa, but she stood aside and said, "Grandpa, Tristan and I have realized our mistakes. Tristan has also decided to come back and continue the wedding with Elena, but we didn't expect." Tristan said angrily, "But that bitch shamelessly betrayed me and is pregnant with another man's child, pretending it's a child of the Hawk family. But Grandpa, rest assured, I've already killed the child in her womb. I will never let the Hawk family be disgraced." After hearing this, his grandfather pushed Tristan aside and then saw me by the pool, barely clinging to life. Nathaniel ran to my side, trembling as he untied the ropes binding my hands and feet. Looking at the blood pouring from my lower body, even his voice trembled. "Elena, how are you?" I looked at Nathaniel in front of me, tears streaming down uncontrollably. "Nathaniel, the baby, save the baby quickly." Grandfather looked at the scene before him in disbelief, raising his cane and striking Tristan hard. "You wretched beast, what have you done?" Tristan dodged and glared at me with resentment. "Grandfather, that bitch Elena, under the name of Mrs. Hawk, is carrying another man's child. You and my uncle have both been deceived by her. I never touched her. The child in her belly is not mine at all." Brielle also chimed in from his side. "That's right, Grandfather. Tristan and I just returned to the Hawk household today, and her belly is already 6 or 7 months along." It must be a child of unknown origin. Grandfather struck Brielle with his cane again. The child in Elena's belly is a descendant of the Hawk family. Tristan shouted, Grandpa, how is that possible? I never even touched her. Nathaniel picked me up, blood pouring from my body, then strode over and kicked Tristan down hard, his eyes full of murderous intent as he looked at him and Brielle. If anything happens to the child in Elena's womb, I want your lives in compensation. After saying that, he hurriedly carried me towards the hospital. Tristan was so frightened by the murderous aura emanating from his uncle that he didn't dare to breathe. Only after he left did he take a deep breath and look toward his grandfather. Grandpa, uncle, have you gone mad? How can you let me risk my life for that lewd woman and the mysterious child in her womb? Brielle whispered beside him. Tristan, could all of this be a conspiracy between Elena and uncle? Try to use the child in Elena's womb to seize the inheritance that belongs to you? Tristan immediately looked at his grandfather and said, Grandpa, you must stand up for me. All the property of the Hawk family belongs to me and must never fall into anyone else's hands. Seeing that the two of them still hadn't figured out the situation, Grandpa angrily struck Tristan on the head with his cane. I have been smart all my life. How could I have such a foolish descendant like you? The child in Elena's womb is Nathaniel's. Upon hearing this, Tristan and Brielle were stunned on the spot, and after a long moment, they said, How is this possible? Elena is my wife. How could she be with my younger uncle? Besides, doesn't my younger uncle dislike women? Grandpa looked at Tristan and said, Back then, you ran away from the wedding, and Elena immediately remarried Nathaniel. This is something the entire Jing City knows. You didn't know? Tristan was stunned. After he and Brielle eloped, fearing being taken back by their families, the two cut off all contact with Jing City and went abroad to travel and live their lives. Until recently, when all his credit cards were frozen, the two were penniless, and even the plane tickets to return were barely scraped together after washing dishes for a month. After returning, they went straight to the Hawk family villa. There was no time to inquire about these matters. It is a fact that Nathaniel was born with oligospermia, but it is not that there was no hope for fertility at all. Over the past few years, he has consulted famous doctors both domestically and abroad, and only then did he have a child with Elena. Grandpa said sorrowfully, Now everything has been ruined by you. Thinking of his uncle's thunderous methods, Tristan collapsed to the ground as if all his muscles and bones had been drained. At that moment, several bodyguards with stern expressions walked in from outside. The two immediately trembled all over in fear and begged their grandfather for help. Grandpa, save me, I don't want to die. Grandpa, Grandpa. The bodyguard ignored their wails and dragged them away directly. After Nathaniel carried me into the car, the driver sped off and reached the hospital in just 10 minutes. I was pushed into the delivery room, and half an hour later, I gave birth to a stillborn baby boy. The doctor was about to follow protocol and dispose of the fetus. I stopped her, saying, Bring the baby over to me. With a hint of reluctance, she said, Mrs. Hawk, it's better not to look. I'm afraid it might leave a psychological shadow later on. I said weakly, He is my child. No matter what, I should see him off on his final journey. At Nathaniel's signal, the doctor handed the fetus to me. His entire body was flushed red, only slightly larger than my palm. I carefully cradled him in my arms, afraid that any careless move might hurt him. Just this morning, he was happily rolling around in my belly, interacting with me. But now he has silently left me forever. Tears uncontrollably streamed down my cheeks. Baby, it's Mommy who failed to protect you. I am sorry. Baby, please don't blame Mommy. Don't be angry with Mommy. Please wake up quickly, okay? I placed the child on my chest, transferring my body heat to him, hoping for a miracle, but in the end, nothing happened. Nathaniel, with red-rimmed eyes, held both me and the child tightly in his arms. I knew his sorrow was no less than mine. Nathaniel is 10 years older than me. Back then, when Tristan abandoned me at the wedding, he went up on stage and married me. I thought he was just doing it to maintain appearances for the cooperation between the Hawk and Sterling families. That night, I placed the divorce agreement in front of him, but he took it and tore it up. Nathaniel said he had been asexual for 34 years. But today, he fell in love with me at first sight in my wedding dress. So he is serious about this marriage and hopes I can treat it sincerely as well. After the wedding, he showered me with love and affection. Expensive jewelry and custom-made dresses were delivered to me without me having to ask, and he was attentive and considerate in daily life. I was originally a girl with a youthful heart, and I gradually fell for him. Besides being older and wealthy, every night he tormented me to the point of ecstasy and agony. Later, when I saw a friend's newborn baby, my heart was completely melted, and I began to desire having a child of my own. But Nathaniel was born with oligospermia. To fulfill my wish, he started seeking medical treatment all over the country and abroad. On the day I found out I was pregnant, he happily gave every employee at the company an extra month's salary so everyone could share in our joy. The night I felt the baby move, Nathaniel excitedly kissed my belly and said that having me and the child in his life was enough for him. The crib, the tiny clothes, the little toys at home were all personally chosen by Nathaniel and me, carrying our welcome and love for this child, but now all of it is gone. Thinking of Tristan and Brielle's fierce and terrifying faces, a deep hatred ignited in my heart, wishing I could tear them to pieces. Nathaniel, it was Tristan and Brielle who harmed our child. Nathaniel held me and the child tightly, his eyes full of murderous intent. Elena, rest assured, I will never let those who hurt you and the child go unpunished. The suffering you endured today, I will make them pay back 100-fold. I held the child for a whole day and night, finally accepting the fact that the child has gone away from us forever. After Nathaniel and I cremated the child's body, we chose the best feng shui cemetery in the capital city to bury the child. Tristan and Brielle were brought up by bodyguards and knelt down in front of the child's tombstone. Just one day apart, I almost didn't recognize the two people in front of me. Tristan and Brielle were both disheveled, their faces swollen like pig heads, with wounds still bleeding on their arms, bodies, and legs. Nathaniel had someone use a whip dipped in chilly water to lash the two until their skin was torn and bleeding, then threw them into the sewage pool to spend the night. Even now, their bodies still emit a foul smell. An iron rod was handed to me by Nathaniel. Elena, do whatever you want of them. I'll back you up. I took the iron rod and looked at them. Tristan and Brielle immediately looked terrified and kept kowtowing to me. I really didn't know you were carrying my uncle's child. Please spare me this time. I won't dare to do it again. Yesterday, I was also kneeling on the ground begging them to spare me and the child, but did they let us go? I picked up the iron rod and struck Tristan hard on the back. Don't know. Yesterday, I told you more than once that the child in my womb is Nathaniel's. Didn't you hear? Tristan instantly screamed in pain, trembling uncontrollably on the ground, explaining, my uncle has never been interested in women for over 30 years, especially because he has oligospermia. I really didn't expect that he would marry you and even have a child with you. Is this really your reason for killing my child? Yesterday, I begged you in every way to make a phone call to verify, but not only did you refuse, you smashed my phone. If only Tristan had believed a single word I said, the child in my womb would not have died a tragic death. My heart was full of rage, and the iron rod in my hand struck Tristan again and again. He was in so much pain that he tried to dodge, but the bodyguards held him down tightly, unable to move. He could only shout at me angrily, Elena, if you don't stop, I'll expose your dirty secrets. Let's see if my uncle will still want you. I looked at him with a cold gaze. What shameful thing have I done that you need to talk about? Tristan said viciously. On the eve of the wedding, you were hanging out with a bunch of men at a bar, and naked photos of you were spread everywhere. If you weren't so filthy and despicable, how could I have run away from the wedding and left you behind? If I didn't run away from the wedding, how could so many things have happened afterward? When it comes down to it, the root cause of all these problems is you yourself. He looked at Nathaniel and said, Brother-in-law, Elena is nothing but a slut. A woman like her doesn't deserve to set foot in the Hawk family. It's precisely because of her past that I accidentally hurt the child. Nathaniel kicked Tristan. Tristan, you spread rumors about my wife like this. Have you thought about what the consequences will be? Tristan shouted, I didn't spread rumors. Brielle saw everything with her own eyes, and those lewd photos of Elena are still on my phone. I turned my gaze to Brielle, kneeling beside us, the iron rod swinging over her head. When exactly did you see it with your own eyes in that place? Brielle's face turned pale, and she was speechless for a long time. I swung the iron rod and struck her shoulder. Speak. Brielle immediately wailed in pain. I made all that up to trick Tristan into eloping with me. The photos were photoshopped by me too. She slammed her head hard against the solid stone floor, making a loud thud. Elena, the one who wronged you and owes the debt is clear. The child in your womb was killed by Tristan. It has nothing to do with me. If you want revenge, take it out on him. I beg you, let me go. Upon hearing this, Tristan glared at Brielle with deadly eyes. How dare you lie to me? Seeing that things had already fallen apart, Brielle simply stopped pretending. If anyone's to blame, it's yourself for being stupid. I just casually photoshopped a couple of pictures and said they were indecent photos of Elena, and you believed it. Tristan somehow found the strength to break free from the bodyguard's grip and lunged at Brielle. Bitch, it's all your fault that I'm like this. I'll kill you. The two quickly got entangled. Although Brielle wasn't as strong as Tristan, she specifically clawed at the wound on Tristan's face. I took a few steps back, watching this dog-eat-dog scene unfold. In the end, Tristan overpowered Brielle, pinning her down and choking her with both hands. Brielle's eyes rolled back as she was choked, on the verge of losing consciousness. I signaled the bodyguards to step forward and pull Tristan away. I said I would personally avenge my child. I dragged the iron rod forward. The two of them looked at me in terror, shaking their heads repeatedly. No, no. Just as I raised the iron rod, aiming at their heads, ready to strike down, Grandpa hurriedly shouted, leaning on his cane, Elena, stop. Tristan saw Grandpa as if he had found a savior and hurriedly begged with tears, Grandpa, she's going to beat me to death. Please save me. Overnight, Grandpa's hair had almost all turned white, and his face looked extremely tired and haggard. He walked up to me, gasping for breath repeatedly, and looked at me with guilt, saying, Elena, that fool Tristan caused the death of your and Nathaniel's child without distinguishing right from wrong, and he should be unforgivable. I gripped the stick tightly in my hand and looked coldly at my grandfather standing before me. Tristan's parents died early, and he was basically raised by his grandfather alone. The grandfather had deep feelings for him, so it was understandable that he came back to plead on his behalf. But his life is a life. Does that mean my child's life isn't? Yesterday, the image of him writhing and struggling inside me, constantly pleading for help, is still vivid in my mind. Today, no one's pleas will do any good. But I never expected that my grandfather, at his age, would kneel before me and say, Tristan has been an orphan since childhood, raised by me. Now that he has committed such a mistake, it is also because I failed to discipline him properly. Today, let me die together with him, to atone for the sins of my deceased grandson. Upon hearing this, Tristan immediately refused. Grandfather, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. He broke free from the bodyguard's grip and ran to his grandfather, trying to pull him up in one swift motion. Grandpa, how can you kneel before her? Get up quickly and take me away. Grandpa shook off Tristan's arm, picked up his cane, and mercilessly struck him. You wretched beast, kneel down and atone to Elena and the dead child. Tristan was subdued by his grandfather's blows, or perhaps he realized that his grandfather could no longer protect him. In the end, he obediently knelt at my feet, repeatedly kowtowing to me. Grandpa beside me also bent down. If you want to kill me first. That way, when I go to hell after death, I can still face Tristan's parents with dignity. I staggered back a step, holding the iron rod. This old man, who once dominated the business world and had been proud all his life, was kneeling before me like this, stirring a flood of emotions in my heart. If Grandpa had taken a strong stance to protect Tristan, then my attitude would only be stronger than his. Now that Nathaniel is the head of the Hawk family, he will ultimately be defeated. But now he's asking to die in Tristan's place. For a moment, I really don't know what to do. Nathaniel supported my body from behind, his gaze sharp as he swept over everyone present, then angrily scolded, "Are you all dead? Letting the old master act like this. Quickly take the old master away." The bodyguards immediately reacted, and the two of them stepped forward to carry the old master away. Nathaniel saw that I could no longer act, took the iron rod from my hand, and said, "I am the father of the child. Avenging him is my duty. Elena, stay back a little, so you don't soil your eyes." Tristan and Brielle had lost their last support at this moment. They looked at Nathaniel as he walked toward them holding the iron rod, their eyes full of fear, trembling all over. "Uncle, I am your own nephew. If you kill me, how will you face Grandpa? How will you face my father? How will you face the ancestors of the Hawk family?" Nathaniel swung the iron rod fiercely, his tone harsh. "That's none of your concern anymore." The iron rod, carried by the wind, was about to smash down on Tristan's head, and he was so scared that he wet his pants. At the critical moment, I raised my hand and grabbed Nathaniel's arm. Nathaniel turned to look at me. I took a deep breath and said, "Letting them die just like that is far too easy for them. It would be better to break their hands and feet, banish them from the Hawk family, and let them suffer all the hardships of the world." Nathaniel frowned. "Elena, you don't need to care about what he says. I just want to avenge you and the child." "Nathaniel, actually sometimes death isn't the most terrifying thing. They grew up in the Hawk family, accustomed to a life of luxury and ease. Now, breaking their hands and feet, let them become cripples, forced to live a life worse than ordinary people. That is the greatest punishment for them." Nathaniel pondered for a moment after hearing this, then threw the iron rod to the bodyguard and ordered coldly, "Do exactly as Madam said." The bodyguard caught the iron rod and mercilessly struck Tristan and Brielle's limbs, their screams of agony never ceasing. I watched this scene coldly, then gently placed my fingers on the child's tombstone. "Baby, Daddy and Mommy have already avenged you. If you have calmed down, please come back to Daddy and Mommy as soon as possible, okay?" Nathaniel's large palm held my hand. "I will, Elena, the baby will definitely come back." Afterwards, Nathaniel, afraid that I would be saddened by memories, took me away from the Hawk family villa, and whenever he had time, he would take me traveling to relax. Although neither of us mentioned the child again, we both knew clearly that this would be a permanent scar in our hearts. It wasn't until 3 years later, when I became pregnant again, that Nathaniel acted as if facing a great enemy upon learning of my pregnancy. He hired dozens of bodyguards and nannies to surround me, not even allowing a fly to come near me. 5 months into the pregnancy, Nathaniel stopped going to the office and stayed by my side at home every day without leaving. As my belly grew bigger, my feet became severely swollen. Every night, Nathaniel would massage me, watching my belly with a heavy sigh, worried and unable to sleep. I raised my hand to smooth the furrow between his brows and smiled. "Nathaniel, from the way you look, you have typical prenatal anxiety. Tomorrow, I'll accompany you to see a doctor, okay?" Nathaniel gently placed his hand on my belly. "Elena, I am very anxious. This child must be safe." My hand rested on top of his palm. "We'll be fine. This time he will surely come safely to my side." Not long after, I safely gave birth to a baby boy, and the grief of losing a child that had weighed on Nathaniel and me finally dissipated. The child's birthday party was held at the most luxurious hotel in the capital city. Nathaniel and I had just gotten out of the car holding the child when a man with tattered clothes and a twisted gait rushed towards us. But before he could reach us, he was stopped by the heavy security guards. At first, I thought he was a beggar, and considering today was a joyous day, I intended to have someone take him away and give him some food and supplies. It wasn't until he spoke that I recognized the man before me was actually Tristan. "Uncle, Elena, now that you have children again, I beg you to let me return to the Hawk family. I truly know I was wrong. Please let me come back." After Tristan and Brielle broke their arms and legs because they did not receive timely treatment, both became severely disabled. The hardships of these past years have completely worn him down into a beggar-like state. Countless times in the middle of the night, he regretted why he had believed Brielle back then and chosen to run away from the wedding. Brielle had already married a man in his 50s 2 years ago and left him. His physical disability and the hardships of life made him contemplate ending his life countless times. The thought that kept him going was that if Nathaniel and Elena had another child, perhaps they would be more lenient and allow him to return to the Hawk family. And he finally waited for this day. Nathaniel looked at him coldly and said, "Spare your life back then was already a great mercy to you. If you want to return to the Hawk family, forget about it." After that, he ordered the bodyguards to throw Tristan out. This action completely cut off Tristan's hope of returning to the Hawk family. Not long after he went back, he committed suicide in his rented room. When we received the news, Nathaniel and I were playing with the children. After a moment of contemplation, Nathaniel instructed someone to collect his ashes. The end of the story.